Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. We've got 4 great decks for you, along with last chance reviews for both Blink and Sasquatch, and so very much more in this absolutely humongous video. Let's get started by telling you you can win one of 5 season passes by commenting on this video. We're going to give away the first 5 season passes, but we're giving away another 5 on video, so keep leaving comments. I'll tell you what that comment you should be leaving is before the end of today's video. So make sure you watch the video, and you can win a season pass by subscribing and leaving a comment. In addition, if you'd like to see these decks be played, check out the stream team. Our own Gregor2424, who's on the podcast this week. Thanks to Power On Gaming, by the way, for loaning us so many of their great creators for this. Gregor2424 will be playing these decks at 12 p.m. Eastern on his stream, and then tomorrow morning on his YouTube, there will be a video. That happens basically every day here on the channel, so make sure you check it out. Our first deck is Spyro's Lockdown list. This list is completely awesome. This is one of the best lists in Marvel Snap, straight up, period, full stop. This list has a way to handle absolutely everything. It's extremely powerful. It's sort of like a mix of the like bouncy stuff, the movie stuff, and the lockdown stuff, and it just everything here works together. This deck absolutely sings. This is, again, straight up one of the very best decks in Marvel Snap. You should absolutely, if you have the ability to, play this list. All right, you can find Spyro at twitch.tv/Spyro_ZA. Spyro is huge, phenomenal player, and often helps us out here on the channel. He'll be on the podcast coming up in July. Sage for this list can be Wolfsbane. Sasquatch is probably needed. You could try Crossbones, but like you probably just want Sasquatch if you're going to play this list. You need Mockingbird, Jeff, Cannibal, Kitty, and Elsa. I know that's a lot, sorry. Ravonna can maybe be Psylocke. Ravona's really not hitting a ton of things here. It's hitting Sage and Professor X and Angela. And honestly, usually you're not really going to get that much value out of sorry, there was a little flag. You're usually not going to get that much value out of it hitting Angela. So it's really Professor X and Sage you're getting most of the value out of this working with. But that Professor X is the goal here. All right, so Spyro has a 60% win rate with a 0.7 cube rate. He went from 50 to 25 on the infinite leaderboard with this list, and won an infinity border. So, you know, that seems like it's all pretty damn good. Again, this is one of the best lists in the game. I tried it out. This is nuts. So turn 1 Kitty, turn 2 Ravonna over Angela. You can play Mysterio if you have Squatch on 3. You don't always want to Squatch on 3 with this list. You're sort of squashing whenever, but there is enough Mobius in the meta that Mysterio into Sasquatch often makes sense. Turn 3, you're playing Sasquatch or Mockingbird, or you're playing Elsa or Nocturne. I tend to prefer Elsa, all things being equal, and save my Mysterio, because if I can get some Mysterio pumps with my Elsa, so much the better, right? Or I can set up to get pumps later with that Mysterio. Turn 4, if you can play it, Professor X is the goal, or you can play 3+1. That 1 can be Angela if you had Ravonna out, or you can here drop Mockingbird or Sasquatch. So far, so good. I know that if you didn't play Mysterio, it's often like, how the hell am I going to play Mockingbird here? But like, there's enough locations that just make Mockingbird cost 4 or 3 that you're perfectly fine just dropping it as you can. Turn 5, Professor X, generally on Sasquatch if you played Sasquatch earlier, or you can play Mysterio plus a 3, or you can play Mysterio with, for example, an Angela and Kitty, and now you've played 5 cards, and that's going to make Sasquatch cost 1, which works with Cannonball, which is silly. So if you can do the Cannonball in 1, you're in heaven, but you can also just drop Sasquatch and Mockingbird for a lovely 19 power spread out. You can often, if you played all those extra cards, even play like a Kitty or something else along with them in order to win that damn game. It's really powerful, just really, really powerful. You can do Elsa, Sasquatch, and Mockingbird. It's great. This list is great. It has a million plays. It has a million ways to win. It doesn't have any super obvious weaknesses or bad matchups. You should absolutely be trying this list out. Again, if you have access to it. Props to Spyro for this great list. But this isn't even the lead deck for today's video, as good as it is. That we're going to get to, but first hit that sub button. We bring you more great Marvel Snap content, more exclusive decks than anyone else does. We have a deck guide, every single day for at least 3 brand new decks. Tomorrow, we're going to be releasing 2 videos, and then I think Wednesday, we're also releasing 2 videos so that we can make sure we give you all the Marvel Snap content you need as the new season turns over, and we have a bunch of big news and announcements coming with the patch and everything else. So make sure you hit that sub button so you don't miss out, ring that notification bell. And those of you who are subbed, like, comment, watch as long as you can. All right, next up, we have Yo Woody's Point Slam. This is the deck that was the lead deck for the video, because this is completely wild. This is Woody just sort of invented a new archetype fairly casually. I thought there was only one Namora build. Looks like this is the second one. This one uses Namora as a way to get yourself a 2-cost Scar. Because if Namora hits a lizard, let's just say, for argument's sake, a lizard and a Man-Thing, or a lizard and a Nocturne, lizard and Enchantress, some combination thereof, Enchantress and Nocturne, you get the idea. If it hits both of those, that's 2 10-power cards that make Scar cost 2, which means you can play it with, like, for example, a Typhoid Mary or some other silly powerful card. You can play it with a Shadow King and an Armor to protect all those suddenly big cards, a US Agent and a Shadow King, so on and so forth. You get the idea. So you can find Woody at twitch.tv/YoWoodyMJ. US Agent for this list, if you don't have it, you're stuck running Shang-Chi. It is way worse for this list than US Agent, because then you're doing only that with your... look, it's still pretty damn good with Scar, but it's nowhere near as good as US Agent, Scar, and something else. Nocturne can be Jeff or Nightcrawler. I know you really want a 5 there, but there's not really another 3/5 you're completely crazy about running. You can always try Polaris if you must, if you feel like you need that 3/5. Man-Thing, Namora, and Scar are all required. Namora in the Scar combo is great. Man-Thing and Namora is hilariously overpowered. I did not realize how good that combination was. Fundamentally, like, if you can get Man-Thing in a spot with, like, 2 cards, right? It's giving -2 to 2 cards, right? You've already got yourself a 4/9, right? And now you've got you're adding 5 more power, so you've got a 4/14. That seems like it's pretty good. Woody is hanging out in the top 3 with this list. He just keeps climbing. I don't think he's going to catch the top 2. The top 2 are pretty far ahead. But Woody is fighting for the number 3 spot with his friend Husky, who we've talked about that Husky Hella deck several times here. And Woody's playing a million things, but this is the current thing he's climbing with. Stellar list. Huge props to Woody for, again, inventing what fundamentally amounts to just a brand new archetype in Marvel Snap. So turn 1, 0 for Lizard or Typhoid Mary. You can save that for Mary later if you don't want a 0 on 1. Please note there are no other ones, so otherwise you're passing. Turn 2, Lizard is perfectly fine. That's generally better than Armor, and you don't really want to play US Agent at this point, but you will over just dying for turn after turn. Turn 3, Luke, or a 2+0, like a Lizard plus Armor into Typhoid is perfectly fine here. If not, you're perfectly fine doing the Nocturne thing, because that sets up the Namora Scar play I talked about earlier. So you want to then play Man-Thing turn 4 alone with a bunch of cheap stuff, or you can just drop Mary. And then you want a Namora, Man-Thing, Lizard, Nocturne, some 2 of those if humanly possible. And you want a 0 and Mary if not. And then finally, Scar plus Enchantress or Luke is how you finish up this. And then, obviously, again, you can do the Scar plus US Agent plus other things. And then you just, like, sort of win. US Agent plus Luke Cage plus Typhoid Mary is just a lot of power, right? A 4/10 remains, even in this meta, a really, really big card. If you combine that with US Agent, we're just really getting somewhere, right? This deck is phenomenal. You should absolutely play this. I'm telling you, the first 2 decks today, chef's kiss. Absolutely love them. Stellar decks. All right, time for the last chance review for Blink. Blink is 5/7. Season Pass will be in the Spotlight caches tomorrow. On reveal, not in Spotlight caches, in the token shop tomorrow. On reveal, swap the last card you played with the highest cost card from your deck. I don't know how much more obvious it could be that you should get this card. This is one of the best cards in Marvel Snap. Blink is stellar. It has like 100 homes, from Hella to Darkhawk to Black Knight decks to that very first deck we saw today. Like this deck, oh wait, it's not in that first deck, excuse me, it's in a later deck. This is just going to continue to find homes in Snap. This is like Lockjaw, but makes sense. You can control what you're getting from it. Blink is one of the best cards. You should absolutely buy it. You will get all of your season pass stuff. If you can afford it, buy it. I don't think this card is going anywhere. I think it's going to be a 5/6 relatively soon, but even then, I still think it's a great card. All right, Sasquatch. 610, Series 5, 6,000 tokens, cost 1 less for each card you played last turn. So if you love Mockingbird or Pixie, get this. You saw that Mockingbird Mysterio deck at the start. If that's your style of deck, then you should get Sasquatch. If that's not your style of deck, it's a very borderline card. So if you like Bounce and Zoo, it's fine. You don't need it for a Bounce deck. I personally, my favorite Bounce decks do not run Sasquatch. So if you like Bounce and you want just different varieties of Bounce, then there's an argument for it. Same thing for Zoo. But this is really for if you want those Mockingbird, Pixie, Mysterio decks. If you want to play those decks, then Sasquatch is a must-have. You have to have it for those decks for the best versions. Sasquatch will be in those forever. Otherwise, this is a pass. Got it? Are those decks the best in the game? They're up there, right? That first deck we saw that ran Mockingbird, Mysterio. Here, I'm going to scroll all the way back, and then we're going to scroll all the way forward. So get ready. All right. This deck, right? It's possible that they take out the Professor X Cannonball, but what makes this list unable to just run a Nihilus package instead, right? I think the Mysterio Mockingbird Sasquatch is a package that's going to go in a lot of decks, and if you want access to that package, then you need that card Sasquatch. If that's irrelevant to you, rolling all the way back, if that's irrelevant to you, please skip this card. All good? Don't be sad though when that package is everywhere, because let's just say that you have a 2-9 and a 3-10, right? That's the two best started cards in the game, just for the price of playing Mysterio. Sorry, the two best started cards in the game at their cost slots for the low cost of playing Mysterio, and that package is going to find its way into a lot of decks. So if you don't want to be locked out of those decks, grab Sasquatch. And if you don't care about those decks, those aren't your style, you don't like them, you want to play other things, then pass. All clear? Good. Next up, we have Black Dama back with another great deck. This is the Butterfly Effect. People have been dominating with this list. This is a you didn't know what I was doing to win list. Fundamentally, what you're doing is you're basting your shit. You're basting your Mockingbird and Sasquatch, and then you're surprised popping it back up with Luke Cage. That's it. That's the whole trick to this list. Everything else here is fairly self-explanatory because you have that Bast. Iron Man finds his way back into a bounce list and is just a lot of power. If Iron Man has 3, then Iron Man is much, much harder to hit with Red Guardian, which is the real reason you don't really play Iron Man. So this is built for Moxsquatch. Sage can be Monkey or Wolfsbane without losing too much. I'd probably actually go Wolfsbane because you want to be able to play Mysterio whenever you need to in order to get out that Sasquatch. Kitty is needed, and I really, really want Nico to fit in this list, but I couldn't figure out how to fit it. I like Nico a lot with both Bast and Hood, but c'est la vie. Again, please check out this list. Black Dama is brilliant, puts out some of the coolest decks, and we always do our best to feature them. In addition, Black Dama will be on the podcast relatively soon. I know we need to book a date. We'll get there. But Black Dama will be on the podcast relatively soon, has these great lists, and our friend Nick got an Infinity Border with this list. So turn 1, Bast for Hood, Iron Man, Mysterio. Those are your priority targets. Those are, if not, you're just dropping Kitty. You Hood only if you have Beast in hand or you've Basted it. Those are the only 2 ways to get rid of the Hood, and you'd rather not be sitting there with the -3, so please be careful with it. Although the Demon is very good as a way to make your Mockingbird a little bit cheaper. Turn 2, Angela, or 2 1s. Mysterio, if it's Basted, and you have Sasquatch, or if it's Basted, or if you have Sasquatch. If it's Basted, you might want to hold it for Sasquatch for later. Turn 3, Bishop is generally better than Luke, and that's why you would like to hold Mysterio if you can, because if you can Bishop then Mysterio, that's just +3 power. You're fine dropping Luke. Sage is fine here as well if you've played a 1, a 2, and you have Beast, because then that Sage will be real big. Turn 4 is your general bounce turn. I like a bounce and Mysterio an awful lot here. If you can bounce and Mysterio, bounce your cards back to Mysterio, and then you can spend your next turn going sort of Sasquatch, Mockingbird, and then all those free cards, and then you can end the game with an Iron Man and a 1, which is just silly, right? Iron Man and Demon or whatever else is great, and that's how you win this with this deck. If you can get your Mysterio and Bounce, right, on turn 4, that's 4 cards. That's going to make Sasquatch 2. So Sasquatch 2, Luke Cage 3 is a really great turn 5. This list is stellar. You're sort of snapping once you have any of your big combos. Be careful with your Bast with Mockingbird and Sasquatch if you don't have a clear outline to play Luke. Because at that point you have to play Luke or you just sort of screwed up and you're dead. It'll also work for demons, by the way. All right, next up, I wanted to show you the picture of my season stats, but it was bugged. So these are my season stats. I played Angela 240 times, which makes sense. I played quite a few bounce decks throughout the course of the season, in addition to some random move decks, and Angela was in all of those. I played her 240 times. She's one of my favorite cards. I've got 2 different variants gold. Waiting for that Angela hip that has been spoiled forever, so let's go. I split Rockslide 24 times and got him gold. I now have Rockslide, Korg, and Darkhawk all gold. So I just need the Rockslide hip again to have all 3 hips gold. My win rate is Magneto with 77% when in deck and 80% when played. So Magneto is my high card for the season, which makes sense. I absolutely rocked with Ika's Blink deck and with KM Best's Blink Darkhawk deck. Those were 2 of my best decks, and Magneto was in both. When I played him, it was obviously for very specific reasons, and it won a frickin' lot. And as it was several other seasons, my win rate was 76% in Sinister London. I'm good at planning for that location and figuring out how to make it work in my benefit. All right, next list, final list, is BBAK discard. No one's talking about this list, but BBAK is chilling in the top 10. BBAK was number 1 and like number 2 or 3 back February and March, I believe, with a Mr. Negative list, and is now playing a classic discard. If you look up the stats on this deck, even now they're still through the roof. This is where you want to be if you're playing classic discard, and I wanted to feature this because, well, suddenly tomorrow MODOK is in Spotlight caches. So if you have a lot of these cards, this is not a hard list to get together. You basically need MODOK and Proxima. You can totally do without Corvus. Which is to say, Corvus can be Hellcow. You can also play whatever other little discard cards you would like. You can find BBAK at twitter.com/BBAK_snap. This is rank 7 right now. We have the rank 7 deck, the rank 4 deck, and a rank deck claim from 50 to 25. And then the Black Dama's crazy thing. These are really, really strong lists today. So turn 1, you pass unless, what? You pass unless you can Blade, not Black Knight, excuse me, Apocalypse or Swarm. Turn 2 is usually a Collector before Morbius. Morbius is an ongoing, so you can play him later and still get the ability. A Collector needs to come out early or it's useless. Turn 3 is a discard 3, and let's talk about what situations you want. Is there a really, really prime target? Then you would like to Gambit. If you have Apocalypse or Helicarrier, especially if you have Helicarrier with Collector out, you are very happy to Lady Sif. And Corvus is if you basically, anytime you don't have MODOK or Morbius in hand, I'm perfectly happy to play Corvus Glaive and get that extra energy. Later on, I can MODOK and then play Morbius on the same turn if I have Corvus, which is one of my main plays for the deck. Turn 4 is Dracula, unless you're pretty sure you're getting stuck with a full hand of Swarms and Helicards. You'll happily play a discard 3 at that point. You have 3 different discard 3s. That's perfectly fine. Turn 5 is the same basic thing, a discard 3, and then you drop one of your 2s. Or you can play MODOK. You want to play MODOK if you know you have Helicarrier in hand, and you're not going to be able to dump your hand with that MODOK. And you want to play MODOK on 5 when you know you're going to want to be playing a bunch of Swarms at the end. Cool. Turn 6, you can MODOK and Morbius and Swarms. Sometimes you can just drop your giant Apocalypse. And that's how you play this list. It is really, really good power. It is very effective, like shockingly effective still in this meta. It can compete in terms of power with basically anything in the damn game. I urge you to try out this nice, simple, inexpensive, but hugely, hugely effective list. Questions of the day, and then we out of here for the day. Remember, 2 videos are coming tomorrow. So question 1, we're going to do snap questions, then sort of random questions in 2 different slides, just for today, because I did that question video. By the way, what we're asking you today is, what do you want to see in tomorrow's patch? What is your hope for the patch? What are you aiming for? What would you like in tomorrow's patch? Answer that in the comments as a way to enter this day's season pass giveaway. So WFO Sonic Speed asks what I think of gold only being in 2 weekend missions. Sonic Speed seems to think this was negative. I think it's ultimately positive for playing, assuming you buy the season pass. If you're going to buy the season pass, just buy it right away if that's at all affordable and humanly possible for you, right? But even more than that, as far as the season pass goes, it was very annoying when every weekend everyone would just play the same decks because it was the weekend missions. This gets rid of that repetitive problem, putting it only in 2 weeks. And since it's the same amount of gold, I don't really have a big complaint. I think it's generally better. Chen Chisao wants Snap merch, and hey, I don't know if you've ever heard of snapkang.com, but snapkang.com has a whole bunch of Marvel Snap merch. You can even get a discount by going /discount/STG. Yeah, that's our friend Super Tech God's discount code. You can get some cheaper stuff if you want Snap merch. Check it out there. Action Jackson asked my favorite archetype after Bounce, and I think it's Surfer. My best archetype is like that mid-range Darkhawk control stuff. I'm really, really good with it. That's why I was so good with those mid-range Blink decks. That's why I was so good originally with the old Stature Black Bolt decks. Like, that's really like where my best playstyle is, even better than Bounce. But as far as what I enjoy, Bounce is one, and then like the finicky surfers are two. Move Surfer. We're talking about Storm Surfer. We're talking about Werewolf Surfer, stuff like that. That's where my love is. The Arminius is curious as to longevity of Snap as opposed to games that die quickly. So some mobile games die within a couple years. Snap had 100 million invested in it. I don't think it's dying anytime soon, assuming they can still keep new players. Now, the question is, the early game experience for Snap is some of the best stuff ever. If you don't remember it, like Series 1 and Series 2 are an absolute joy to play through. If they can get people to try the damn game, they will forever keep hooking people because that is so good. But once that people get to Series 3, more and more we desperately need some kind of catch-up mechanic. What the catch-up mechanic is, I don't know, but there needs to be one. Otherwise, getting to Series 3 and realizing you have like 50 Series 5 cards to collect is not going to be fun for people for long. Although that no duplicate protection thing for people who are early Series 3 and opening Spotlight caches ends up being far, far, far less of a concern. Which is the day part 2. Mojo the Clown wants to know what the best dessert is, so my wife would say dulce de leche. I think the best dessert is probably a baked chocolate chip cookie with ice cream on it and hot fudge, preferably from Friendly's. LAB asks if a hot dog is a sandwich, and I'd like to shout out our old friend Ridiculous Hat. Hat was one of our very first guests on the podcast. Hat is someone I was a fan of before I even played Snap. Hat had an old Hades podcast that I absolutely loved. Can't wait to play Hades 2, by the way. But so, is a hot dog a sandwich is a knowledge question. I stopped teaching it this year. I used to teach IB theory of knowledge, in which the question that we constantly ask is, what do we know what we know? And definitions are an extraordinarily complicated concept. A definition is ultimately us putting a label on something. Every single item in the universe is fundamentally unique. It's made up of its own specific atoms, its own specific time, its own specific place, so on. So, when we try and define something, what we're doing is we're putting it into a category. All words are categories we put on things. And categories are never perfect fits, right? I like to think of categories as buckets. So we have a bucket that says sandwich. And all the things that do this fit in that sandwich bucket. Except some things that do this don't quite fit in a sandwich bucket. See hot dog, see taco. Some of the things that do this don't quite fit in that bucket. And some of the things that don't do this sort of do fit in that bucket, because for whatever reason, a gyro feels very sandwichy, even though it's like much more taco-y, right? Like, things get real complicated real fast with this, because what we're doing is we're ultimately going labels, and labels are only feelings and vibes matter as much as categories. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Yeah, probably, but if your heart says no, I'm not mad at you either. Deus Volt wants to know if we learn from mistakes, why are you afraid to make them? So, one, I think the premise is flawed. I don't think we always learn from our mistakes. Every single person watching this listing has said something horrible to someone they care about, something that they knew was wrong to begin with, and many of us have probably done that more than once. I know I have. We don't always learn from our mistakes. That's a false premise. We'd like to learn from mistakes. We try to learn from mistakes. But also, some mistakes don't just get better because we learn from them, right? There's the old, like, I don't know, stupid teenage meme where it's like, if you drop a plate and you say sorry to it, it doesn't put it back together, but it fits here, right? It's just because you made the mistake and you learn not to, like, I don't know, juggle plates doesn't make the plates that you broke better. So mistakes have harm even if we do learn, and we very, very often do not. And a much later question, what movie is overrated? And my answer is, oh my god, I just lost the name of it. I had it in my head so freaking well. It is the Christopher Nolan movie, Inception. I think Inception it's a fun action movie that people act like is deep, and it is the simplest, most basic thing in the world. It is, and I mean this I mean, no offense to anyone who has not read a Grant Morrison comic. It's a Grant Morrison comic for someone with far, far, far less imagination. It just doesn't go nearly as wild and weird as it thinks it does. Nothing in it feels like an actual dream, and it's one of the most disappointing movie-going experiences I've ever had in my life. All right, certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with on-air thanks. If you would like to have your name read out, please, please, please check it out. Check out the Patreon at patreon.com/snapjudgments. I'd like to say thank you too, and we're going to go fast again today because, folks, I'm trying to record several videos tonight. Abigail Gleason, Mandatory Burnout, Cables, David G. Wingfield, The Direwolf, LAB, FaThorNewman, Good Dog Gamer, This Is The Way, Inc., Jay Neverreed, J.D. McDonaldino, Caretix Lee, Koire, Pyrofros, The Goat Seeker, Ten Man Falcon, Snowlax, welcome aboard Snowlax, appreciate you, who's also now a mod on our Discord, Doku, Ginger Prime, Philip Rakovich, hey Racco, I got your deck coming up soon, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of The Danger Zone, The Rob Silverman, The Notorious Bizza, X-Force V and Skippy G, Snap Judgments League 1 season champion Tommy Nyquist, The King of Bros, Black Dahlia, The Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, Ryan Wood, hey Rye, Kev C. Hoda, first season Infinite was this one, Luna Chris, my former student, Louis Antunes, Mod Supreme Models, the one and only Darth Vader, Jaime Setala, Brian Kaufman, Tristan H. Martin, The Fuzzy Dunlop of The Wire fame, Spectrum Mix, Hoot, Matt H. DJ, Mikey Hijinks, No Frickin' Flex, Ocularis, Hey Craig, Sterry, Pretty Frickin' Chill, Seamus, who's been watching the videos on time, breaking my brain, Spike Jones, aka Jonesy, Two Ties, whose deck got me to Infinite this season, but I have to stop saying that after today, the Pirate King, Tuccrr, the Homie Min, and of course, the one and only Gunny T, where the T stands for tomorrow is 2 videos. Don't forget to leave a comment so you can enter that season pass giveaway. Hit that sub, ring that bell, check out the Patreon. See ya. Peace.